Hey everybody, it is another episode of the Empowering Youth Show, but it's also the Empowering Women Show. So I'm just gonna wait. I've come on a few seconds earlier just because this is a live episode. So I'm just gonna wait and see if a few people join us and see if there's a few comments. It looks like there's 3 people here. So if anybody's live with us, say hello. Before I kick in and so on. So I just want to see how I see the messages. I've got a few screens all around me, but I'll just keep going as we start, right? So let me just check on here. Crosspost is live. Some more people. Right. So if anybody is already joining us, it's like you're a couple of minutes early. What are you doing here? So we will go live in 60 seconds. Okay, Newton from Uganda. Hello, brother. Thank you for joining us. And trust me, the lady I'll be bringing today, you are going to love this soul. And Louise is here. Thank you, Louise. So that's good. It means it's working. So it's 7 p.m. UK time, and that means it's 11 a.m. PST. Let's get this show on the road. So welcome everybody to another episode of the Harry Singer Foundation Empowering You Show and the Empowering Women Show. Why? Because the person that we're bringing today, apart from being an absolute legend in my life, she is absolute legend in the world of youth leadership, and she, just by virtue of her presence, she's an empowering woman. So let me introduce, like I always do before I bring my guest in, let me introduce you to who she is and a little bit about what she's achieved so far, right? So let me get right here and make sure all of this is working. Here we go. Okay, here we go. I want to introduce everybody. Drum roll. We have Cathy Buckley on the show today. Who is Cathy Buckley? She's a comedian, actress, speaker, author, and so many other things. But I want to give you a flavor of some of her highlights, like the show reel, what she's achieved, and then we'll really get to the heart of who this amazing soul is. So she has been performing across the whole of the USA and globally. I remember going on a tour with her in Scandinavia, going from Norway, Denmark, and everybody falls in love with this soul, right? So she's performed at the Kennedy Center, the Carnegie Hall. She's speaking at corporations and universities. She's a speaker at the Anthony Robbins Life Mastery, the Global Youth Leadership Summit. Even the US Air Force has recognized her for amazing courage and so. So she's also received the Ovation Award. She's the winner of that. And she has this one-woman tour, like this one-woman show called Don't Buck With Me. That's where she won the award for. And she's a superstar on TV, especially in America. The type of show she's been on, The Tonight Show, Good Morning America, The Howard Stern Show, and she's even been on the HBO special called No Labels, No Limits, and a specific show called The World's Most Intriguing Women. She's definitely an intriguing woman. There's so many labels I could put to her because I love her so. And then she's on magazines, including People magazine. And she's now an author. She's an author of If You Could Hear What I See. Now, the reason for that is I haven't put it up there, but she also has a label that says she's America's most famous deaf comedian, right? Now, deaf is a label that she has crushed, and she'll be talking about that in a second. But what else? She is the national spokesperson for a not-for-profit organization called No Limits for Deaf Children. I know that's so dear to her heart. We're going to be talking about that and many other things. And when people ask me what is someone's mission, I know Cathy has a specific mission, but if it was mine, I just believe her whole life and mission is about love, bringing love to everybody, reminding people to love themselves. But I want to make sure that you get the official mission as well, because you know, those that know Cathy, if they said, like, what is it you want to do? I know for her, it's that she has this mission that no deaf child will go without education or communication. And that's her beautiful mission. So without further ado, I want to bring her straight in. So Cathy Buckley, welcome to the Empowering Youth and Women's Show. Thank you for taking time out. I know it's early morning over there for you in California, but welcome, my sister. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, my little brother. It's as nice as, so great technology. I can just teach. I feel like I can hug you through this thing. I just love you so much.
Bless you. Well, listen, Cathy, I've given everybody a flavor of what you've achieved, and that's just a snapshot, we know. But like with everybody, there are people that will be on this show that will know you, some won't know you, know where they've been, right? But give everybody a little bit of flavor, give the backstory. Who's Cathy? How did she get to be this amazing soul that performs around the world, and the charities that you get to work with? So give everybody the backstory for those that, for whatever reason, don't know who Cathy is. Go for it.
Okay. Well, when I was born RH negative, and then a couple years later, I developed spinal meningitis. To this day, we don't know how I lost my hearing. I know how I lost my virginity, but I don't know how I lost my hearing. And so, but because back in my days, they didn't know what to do, and I was put in a school for the mentally slow. And I was in the school for several years before they found out I had a hearing loss. I was 8 years old when they found out I was deaf. 8 years is a long time to go without language. Without language, you cannot connect. You don't understand love, but more importantly, you don't have a voice to protect yourself. When they found out I was deaf, they put me in another school where I met the most amazing teacher in the world. Her name was Miss Joan Daly. She taught me how to talk. We haven't found a teacher to teach me how to shut up. But Miss Joan Daly taught me how to talk to a balloon. And what she would do, she was my hero. I have the utmost respect for teachers because if they go that extra step for a child with a special need, it really helps make a difference in that child's life. So in that school, I was there, and then all of a sudden they decided to put me in public school, which they should have never done because I had no idea what was going on in school. I couldn't lip read the teachers. She'd have a box that she'd draw on the blackboard. The kids' lips would move. I don't know what's going on. I ended up graduating from high school with a 1-point average. Nobody bothered to tell me we were collecting points, but I graduated with a 1-point average. And by the time I finished high school, I tried committing suicide 5 different times. I was so where I fit. And so when I finished high school, I got a job in a warehouse. I was picketing merchandise. It was a great job. Then one day I decided it was my day off. I decided to go to the beach, get me some color, because I'm so white, I swear I could do a commercial for Clorox. And then I went ahead and I was laying on the beach sunbathing, and the lifeguard Jeep ran over my face, stomach, chest, side, and back. I was laid up for 5 years. I was in and out of a wheelchair for 2.5 years. They said I'd never walk again. I figured I didn't hear them. I got up and I left. I died that day on the beach. I saw life after death. At least I believe I did. I spent the first 20 years of my life looking for 3 things: love, warmth, and acceptance. And when I died, I got a love that was out of this world. A warmth in knowing that I am totally protected, and acceptance, totally unconditional as I am. And then I was given a 4th gift, a gift that I never even heard of. And that was the gift of choice. Someone loved me so much to let me make the choice as to whether I was going to go or stay. Now, I don't know if I was thinking too clearly, Harry, because I just got run over by a Jeep. But I never regretted the choice. And then when I finally started walking again, I was living in Cleveland, Ohio, and I had no dreams, I had no goals. I wasn't taught to have that. And I just wanted to get out of Ohio because I thought if I leave Ohio, I can get rid of all my pain. So I got a hold of an old car, and I just started driving. I ended up in California, lived in my car for about 3 months, met a young lady. She was looking for a roommate. I moved in with her. And 2 years later, I found out I had cancer. After a while, you get a little pissed off at life.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much my backstory. And then
Well,
I just,
let
you know
me
what?
yeah, let's pause, because when you're reading, it's like you're reeling off things that some people have one of those things in their lifetime, and it's like, whoa, right? And I know you haven't listed all of those things. So, when we go back to you being put in a school where, like, how you worded it from back then, a school for, it's like a retarded or whatever the label they had back then, and it was because of deafness. Then you get run over, right? Then you go and you got can't. It's like all of these things took place, and I know you're right now. You've got this great perspective on life, but people will be looking and watching and listening and say, "How did she get through that?" So maybe share a little bit about how it was at the time, what got you through, and then we'll talk about some of the stuff that you're doing today and like in life right now.
I think one of the things that got me through, nobody goes through anything alone.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as somebody giving you a smile at the hardest time in your life could just lighten that load in that moment. So
Yeah.
for me, it was, well, having the life after death experience for me gave me a sense of I'm not alone. I am loved. And I need to love me.
Yeah.
I needed to love me. But I think my biggest transformation for me was taking a chance with life. I never planned on being a comedian. I didn't, who, me, a deaf person standing in front of hearing people who made fun of me my whole life, I'm going to try to make you laugh? Yeah, of course. That's a big deal. But it was the dare. Somebody dared me to do it. It was for a contest to help raise money for children with cerebral palsy. I love kids. And I ended up with this amazing career, a career I couldn't even dream of. And I knew nothing about comedy. Deaf humor and hearing humor were very different.
Mm.
And so I think for me is I was trusting faith. I just went along with it. What else could possibly happen to me that I haven't already gone through? So if I get on stage and I bomb, I bomb. Nothing in this life is that serious. It's not that serious. This life is to be embraced and be embraced and to be loved. That's what this life is for. And that's what I went ahead and did this comedy contest. I was scared, I admit. I mean, because I was afraid I wouldn't hear them call my name when I got on stage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That could be her agent.
It could be somebody, that's for sure. I'm so sorry, people. I meant to turn it off and I forgot. I'm getting old. Back off, people. But I think for me, it was just having this amazing faith and knowing that nothing else can go wrong.
Yeah.
And once I put that in my mind that nothing else can go wrong, nothing went wrong. And every little challenge that came into my life was nothing more than an opportunity to show me how strong I can be.
Absolutely.
It's all about
Absolutely.
finding solutions. It's about finding solutions in life, not crying over spilt milk. It's finding, okay, you spilled the milk, get yourself a paper towel, clean it up. Either that, get a dog or a cat, they'll lick it up. Whatever you need to do, but find a solution.
Beautiful. Well, let's talk about two things then. We'll get into what you do, because if I look at all the things that are in Cathy's life, there are two that we'll talk about now, and then we'll move on to the others. But because first I want to talk about, the work that you do. In fact, let's start with this one, because you already picked up on comedy. I want you to talk about the power of comedy in your life and how you bring that as a gift to other people. Then we'll talk about the work that you do with differently abled individuals and the champion that you are, the ally that you are for so many young people and adults. And then we'll talk about youth. We'll get onto youth on the third part. So let's talk about comedy and the power of comedy, that gift that you bring to people about comedy.
Well, comedy for me has been extremely enriching for me. It's a whole life of change. You find the humor in the difficulties, and stuff like that. You find the humor in all that you need to do. So that's what it is for me. And there was something about when I stood on stage in front of all these people and they laughed, it was about receiving love. Because it was a communication. You talk, they laugh back. You talk, they laugh back. And it was a connection with the audience. So it became a connection with the world. And that. So it was amazing for me. And so I was just trying so hard. I'll never forget the first time I had hearing devices that I could actually hear, and I was on the stage. They laughed. I cried. I cried because that sound was so, it was like saying, it's okay. You're okay. You got this. There's something about standing on stage and taking everybody's problems away for whatever amount of time you're on stage for and just make them belly laugh and let that spirit dance inside of them. So it's just a gift. It really is.
Beautiful. And you know what? People wonder that, the build up to us having this call when I was saying, this is my soul sister. I love it because comedy isn't something that you do when you're up on the stage. Comedy is your life. And I want to hear stories from you. But I remember one story, like it must have been about 20 years ago. And I remember we were at an event. And if there was ever, I mean, we've been on planes where you've done crazy stuff and all this, but I remember we was at an event and there was these two other amazing souls. Nick, who is about 6'5" tall, huge guy, and he's blind. And Scott, who is in a wheelchair, he uses a wheelchair. And then there was Cathy Buckley, who's deaf. And there's Cathy Buckley decides to get Nick, who's blind, to help Scott in his wheelchair maneuver up around a ramp. And I remember you directing them, and there was some bits that were hitting Nick's head, and it was just one of those experiences for me sitting there going, she's crazy. And then we fell in love at that point. So do you remember that time we were there? You've probably done that a million times with different people. But what a magical moment.
Just because he was blind doesn't mean he can help guide somebody else. It shouldn't have done it with a wheelchair, but it was fun doing it anyway.
That's what I mean. You have that gift of no matter what's happening, we can find the fun in anything. And it's like, that's what I want to honor you with. And from your comedy, from your love, and you took on this mantle of helping people with disabilities and then renaming that and having no limits. We'll talk about, especially with the young people that are getting cochlear implants, but talk a bit about that. Talk a bit about, you challenging, laws and guidelines and regulations, and tell us a bit about that journey, and then let's talk about no limits for children.
Well, I have, it's a weird thing. Maybe I am weird, but
you are.
When I was growing up, I never saw color in people. I always thought all of us were godchildren, and we're in a big playground, and this is how we're supposed to get along. And so I never saw disability either. I always saw the ability in person. So you can't walk, what can you do? So you can't talk, what can you do? Because everybody has a gift. Everybody has a talent. So I was always curious about the ability, not what wasn't there. I wanted to know what was there. Yeah. So that was always my focus. And so with no limits for deaf children, with the technology today, with digital hearing aids, cochlear implants, it's nearly impossible for a deaf child not to have spoken language. All my kids have spoken language. They all have a voice. And you got to have a voice to protect yourself, to be a part of this world. It's still a lonely place because you're still in the middle. See, it's always been deaf signing only. But now there's deaf with voice. And there's not a community for those people. So when they get older, they do pick up sign language to try to come find out where they fit. Do I fit in the deaf world or do I fit in the hearing world? I'm trying to teach them to create their world. I have my world. Everybody is welcome in my world. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to label you. I'm not here to limit you. I'm here to see what you have to contribute, what you have that you didn't even know you have to contribute. I want you to believe in the gifts that's within you. So many people believe the words that they've heard from people in the past going, like I did too. I mean, it was like, you can't, you won't, you'll never be able to. You're too tall, you're too whatever. Yeah. I was 6 foot tall in 5th grade. I was felt inadequate. And plus being deaf in a hearing school, I went through a lot of bullying. But you know what? If I had known when I was young, it's the bully's problem, not mine. And if God made me deaf, what the heck am I doing listening to them?
Amazing. Absolutely. But do share some of the stories about the kids that, you know, because you are that spokesperson for No Limits for Deaf Children, but, you know, you're not just a spokesperson. It's like wherever you go. I remember when we toured Norway and Sweden, and it was like, that was it. It was like, come and help this organization. So tell people a bit about what happens there, especially like individual stories.
Well, in LA, deaf kids are mainstream in the public schools. The problem is that there's no accessibility for them. Until they're graduating with a 3rd, 4th grade reading level, they just push them along. So we had started out, in fact, this is our 25-year anniversary, Harry. Well, I've been doing this for 25 years. Wow. And so, thank you. And so we started out 25 years ago as a theater group to bring other deaf children together so they can meet each other. And it was really cute because when they first met another deaf person like themselves, they were like little monkeys picking fleas off of each other, checking each other's hearing aids out. And they're like, wow, what's this kind, you know? And it was perfect. Well, Michelle, my partner, who is the founder of No Limits, she always goes to the back of the audience while the kids are on stage. And she said, now use your voice. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Use your voice. Well, one day she says, Cathy, tell them to use their voice because you can't hear them. I said, okay. So I go to the back of the audience. I'm like, all right, you guys, use your voice. I can't hear you. Use your voice. All 12 of them turned around, looked up at me and said, that's because you're deaf.
See, I told you that your comedy is infectious with them.
I looked at Michelle and I go, Michelle, I can't do this part. They're not going to buy it.
The bullying is continuing.
But it's amazing because we work with the parents, the siblings, because if there's one, it's like, I hate to say it like this, but it's kind of, if one person in the family is sick, all of you are sick with them. You have concern, you have doubts, you try to get prayers in, you get your hope, so everybody becomes a part of it. So it's not fair to work with just the child. It has to be a unit. And so at No Limits, we created a community for all the families. So parents now have somebody to talk to who also has a deaf child. Now, some of the stories, like I'll never forget Kaylee. Oh my gosh, we had a science project, and then this robot was going down the table. And when it got to the end of the table, she laughed so hard. I am so sorry. I wish I would have turned that off. I can't believe that. She was laughing so hard. And she was laughing so hard that she thought she broke herself. She never heard herself laugh before. And she started to get scared. She held her stomach. I said, what's the matter, baby girl? She said, I broke. I go, you what? She goes, I broke. I said, you didn't break. I said, you were laughing. It's a good thing. And so we put the robot back up and she went to laugh again and she goes, and she laughed and she looked at me and I go, it's okay. It's a good thing. And she's like, ah, you know, it's so cute. But we don't know. They've never heard the sound. I have a little boy named Ian. Our motto is I can do it. And Ian has spinal bifida. He's legally deaf and blind. So he's had braces on his legs. Just last week, he was walking for the first time at 5 years old.
Wow.
And he's like, I can do it. I can do it as he's walking. And I'm going, focus on your legs.
Don't fall over. Oh, wow.
We have kids with autism who also is deaf. And it becomes a community, for a safe place for these kids to go, oh, it's okay to be who I am. And that's important. So my whole thing is, I missed out on an education. We have 100% rate now at our after-school program that all of our kids that have graduated from high school are now in college. So we have 100% rate that our kids have, because we're the only program in the whole world that works with them from birth to 21. We don't drop them off. Whenever they want to come back and they need more work, we will work with them on literacy, STEM, anything they need to keep them moving forward.
Yeah, and the work they're doing, Michelle and the team there, it's life-changing. We know that. So at the end of this show, we're going to make sure that people know how to follow you and how to support, No Limits for Deaf Children and so on. So let's get into young people. Let's get into the youth. How you and I suddenly, yeah. It's like, now for the people that are watching and listening, you've already heard Cathy say, oh, my children, my kids. It's like she has millions. Every young person that she is blessed to be in their presence becomes her child, right? So let's talk about your love for young people and like the work you do, and then we'll wrap up with like any message you got. I still want to talk a little bit about your book, but let's talk about your love for young people and youth leadership. And I think for the last 23 years we've been doing that consistently together. So let's talk about that now. Go for it.
Well, in my neighborhood alone, I have 14 kids that call me Aunt Cathy. I keep telling them my name's Barbara, but nobody's buying it. But there's something about nobody's communicating with them. It feels like they're not getting. I create a safe place. I wish I had a safe place when I was growing up, that I could express my feelings or my fears. My kids in my neighborhood, they would come to me with something that they're not happy about their parents are doing or whatever. And then I try to find out, now wait a minute, let me think. Mom and dad work, they provide this, and this, and this for you, and you think you're still entitled? And so I don't always agree with the kids. I just try to paint the whole picture for them to see it, because we get so focused on what we're just feeling in that moment. And so young people to me are the people that we need to touch now, so they don't end up being our age, looking and asking for help to see how I can live my life. I want them to learn to live their lives while they're young and not wait until they're 40 and 50 and go, oh my gosh, I just don't have it together. And I just don't want them to go through that when they get older. And young kids are smart today. They are really smart. Some of them really intimidate me, I have to be honest with you. But it's just been a crazy world, especially in this last year and a half with the pandemic and everything. The kids just didn't have that social ability to be with other kids in classrooms and stuff. In some ways, it's a good thing because they can't get in trouble.
Yeah, crime went down a bit, didn't it? But as you were speaking, Cathy, two things came to mind. Number one is your ability to give the gift that you always wanted when you was a child. And the second part is, of all the years I've seen you, and with not just young people, adults as well, but specifically young people, why do they connect with Cathy? Why do they have that connection with Cathy? And it's what you've just been talking about. You accept them as they are. And for many of them, it's like, what, it's okay for me to be this and you still pour your love on me? What's wrong with you? And they think you have another disability, right? But it's that ability that you have to touch their soul, to find that light in them. And we talk about youth leadership or empowerment. It's the same thing I have with this women's empowerment. It's not about giving people power. It's about getting them to step into their power. And you have this beautiful gift of seeing that in people. And I want to acknowledge you for that and make sure others see that, because, that journey continues. There's like hundreds of thousands of magical moments that we shared with young people. Maybe you want to pick one that of the millions, any one thing on your journey with youth leadership that sort of stands out for you. Go for it, and then we'll get into like the closing.
There was some. I'm sorry, but some of this cut out. You cut out a little bit.
It'll all keep rolling. So I was like, if there is any one magic moment on your journey of youth leadership, or one of I know there's so many, but if there's any one magic moment of you on a youth leadership program, go ahead, share one.
One of my moments that really broke my heart was a young woman came up to me afterwards. She's 15, I think, and she was in tennis. And I spoke on stage about the day I was molested. And so she was telling me she didn't know what to do because her tennis coach was inappropriately touching her. And I said, you need to go to her parents. And she goes, but he's their best friend. And so she didn't know where to reach out to, because she said, they're not going to believe me over my... And I said, well, then we need to find somebody, because you do not need to be put in an uncomfortable situation. And that part made me sad, because all kids, the home should be a safe place. But it's not necessarily true. It should be, but it's not always. And so for me, when I talk with youth, like when I was in London, I saw a girl, she was a cutter. She was slicing herself. And I asked her what was going on and all of that, and to find out she's gay. But she didn't know who to go to talk to. And every young person, everybody, no matter what age, if there's something you're dealing with in your heart that needs to be expressed, by all means, find your safe place and do it. That little girl should not have had to be cutting because she just wanted to feel something, because she was afraid to tell people what she was feeling inside herself. She shouldn't have had gone through that. None of us kids should have to go through not allowing themselves to be who they are and what they feel in that moment. Yep. You're entitled to your feelings. We're not here to judge it, limit it, or make you feel crazy or whatever, less than because of your thought. Just don't judge it, just listen. Sometimes it's better to say nothing.
Therefore, once again, the gifts that you received when you had your near-death experience, or however you worded that, was you had one of your gifts was love, but then you had that other gift of acceptance, and young people wanting accept, but also to be believed in, right? Because it's sometimes when challenging things are happening, they want it to stop, but the second and probably overriding things, they want to be believed, and it's that's something that you provide in abundance. So let's start bringing it to. Tell us a little bit about the book. Tell us a little about the book. Like, don't buck with me. What's the book about? Who's it for? Tell us all. What's it about?
The book is for anybody. In fact, when I had my show, Don't Buck With Me, I'll never forget, I was on stage, and there was a 5-year-old little boy sitting on this end, and there was a 98-year-old man over on this end of the audience. And I thought to myself, who's going to fall asleep first? And both of them were awake through the whole show. But the book is really, it's my life, with the hope that, we all can learn from each other's stories. Yeah. I'm doing a second book now, more or less like you're not broken, you're just stuck. We get stuck in our stories. And I'm a firm believer in forgiveness. It's not about getting people off the hook. It's about getting your stuff off the hook.
Correct. Correct.
It's about not caring somebody else said the wrong thing or it did. The power, the one power that we all have that no one can take from us is forgiveness.
Correct.
And forgiveness sets you free.
100%. Amen to that. So what's next? What's next? Apart from the new book, I'm going to get on to like how people can connect with you. And I know, like, you know, the world is not going to stop me and you staying connected. Whilst they tell us we can't travel or whatever it is, we'll still connect through these mediums. We'll continue to keep serving people. But is there anything next that you want to share, or your, you know, any message you have for people? And then we'll get on to how they can follow you. Let's go for it.
Well, what I'd like to do, I kind of like to want to do what you're doing, but differently. I want to, when I had a video that went viral, I had several of them, it's been over 100 million views. And what I'd like to do is to help people, like, you know, like do a Zoom with someone and maybe publicize it so people can learn from each other's stories.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So many people are suffering, but it's no they're allowed to let go of. And I want to help them get unstuck.
Yeah. You're the right person to do it. So, you know, I'm getting onto the bit like, how can people help you? So before I even say that, you know, I'm always here for you. You know, whatever your mission is, I'm your servant with you, right by your side. So, and I'll hold you to account with that, because, you know, when we created these shows, the Empowering Youth Show, Empowering Women Show, it was like, Cathy Buckley. I need Cathy Buckley on the Empowering Women Show. And it's so good now that we get more and more people to experience your gift, because you are a crazy, funny, powerful woman, yet holds that humility in such a beautiful way. And I think that's what people will endear to you, because it's, you know, it's like every ounce of what you have, to your mom, to your family, to your kids, to the world, is like, it's just an abundance of it. So I want to honor you with that. So that's why I want to get into how can people follow Cathy, stay in touch, keep in touch with regards to No Limits for Deaf Children. Go ahead. What's the best way for people to stay in touch with Cathy?
Oh, you can go to the website, CathyBuckley.com. You can go to my Facebook page, which is official page for Cathy Buckley. I got to be honest with you. My neighborhood kids take care of this stuff. I have yet to figure it out.
I'm sure that will always be the case.
And I'm going, hey, look, I wouldn't plug in this computer if I didn't know you were going to be on the other end.
I remember early in the days, I remember years and years ago when you was first starting out speaking, would always be one of us in the room making sure, like, if someone had said something and we'd sort of lip read it to you and so on. And now you're live on Zooms and eCams and all of these different things. It's just a blessing. So I just lost my trail of thought because, that was it. There was one other thing. Because you never say it whenever I say, how could people help you? For those of you that are watching, those of you that are listening, I know most people now are doing podcasts. I know people are all engaged with getting message and content out. If you want to add value to your community, whether they're a 5-year-old or a 95-year-old, this is the lady that you want to reach out to, right? If you have an audience that you feel needs some inspiration, some love, some acceptance, make sure you reach out to Cathy and her team. You may not get her, right? But just reach out, because if you have an audience that needs that, this is the lady I endorse wholeheartedly. This is not a sales program. You know, we never do that here. But make sure if you have an audience, if you have a podcast, if you have something, and you can convince Cathy that you are genuine and authentic, you're an absolute winner. So, Cathy, once again, thank you so much for taking time. I know you've just come back from Ohio, being with your mum and so on. It was like the moment you got back, you're like, I'll be there. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that.
I love you you so much, honey. Thank you. And give my love to the family, please.
I will do. I will do.
Many blessings.
Yeah, your family is huge, and I know I've got to say it to everyone. So thank you so much. So guys, we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you leave comments for Cathy on the YouTube or the Facebook, wherever you're watching. Make sure you do that. And I'm going to flick back and just close what we've been covering. So there you go. There's Cathy, and all the links for Cathy and how to connect with her will be on the website, will be on the Facebook group. But she will feel all your love. Trust me, she will read everything that we send her. So let's wrap it up as we always do. Let's get on to the last slide. So there you go. If you haven't already subscribed to the Harry Singer Foundation YouTube show, the Empowering Youth or Empowering Women show, just do that because you'll get access to both of those. And then also, if you're not aware of it, we're running our virtual Youth Leadership Summit on August the 28th. And 29th, and it's totally free. This is for any young people 18 and under from all over the world. We have young people already registered from all over the world. There is no cost, but you must register. We hope you turn up for the whole thing because we need you to do that, right? We have some amazing speakers. The announcement will be coming out in the next couple of days. But if you're interested, just write a comment on the Facebook page, Youth, especially if you want to apply, and the team will send you the link. Just type youth and they will send you the link. But also, just for those that don't know, we are going to run our virtual Women's Empowerment Summit on October 2nd and 3rd. If you want to know about that, just type women.